And it'll be interesting to see whether the fall back in the oil price perhaps causes that to bounce back next month. But it's a waiting game at the moment.
A quick word on inflation data out of the UK, 9:30 UK time. We've got that right now. How important will that be for the gilt market?
Well, potentially very important. The numbers do surprise quite frequently. Quite often the outturns are perhaps 0.2 either side of the market median. And it's one of those numbers that's very, very difficult, almost impossible to second guess. If we get an upside surprise today and added to that stronger house price data coming through at the end of this month, beginning of next month from the Halifax and the Nationwide, then the markets will start to speculate again about the MPC raising rates. At the moment, the market's running with the view that the official level of rates will remain broadly at these levels, but we'll have to wait and see.
Don, thanks very much. Pleasure having you on the programme. Don Smith, let's just tell you that UK inflation is expected to have risen at the fastest annual rate in more than 2 years. That data out in just about, 2 hours and 50 minutes from now. Let's get back to John. He's at the Money Desk. He's having a look at some more breaking news just coming this time from Cairn Energy. John.
Yes, if I look at the shares, you can see quickly the shares, you can see this year so far, again, not really telling a story. It's actually up by only 1% for the year, but look at this 5-year chart. You can see a very strong gains. Of course, this company joined the FTSE within 3 months. It was actually out of the FTSE, but again, this is very encouraging as regards the statement today. They have actually released their earnings for the full year. Full year net income, £10.8 million. That's an increase, I can tell you. Actually, it's down from £46 million last year. They have been using the money to drill new wells. They actually found oil in the third well in India, northern Rajasthan. They've got all in place to have more than 2 billion barrels at Rajasthan, so you can see, therefore, clearly very encouraging. And in fact, Bill Gamble, the CEO of the company, saying that indeed Cairn remains excited by the growth opportunities within its existing portfolio and the prospects for growth across South Asia. Therefore, again, he's very encouraged by that. They've also got, in fact, he called it 2004, he called it an exceptional year for Cairn Energy, and our operational success has continued in 2005. They've discovered, appraised, and evaluated 500 million barrels of oil reserves in Rajasthan within 15 months, and he calls it a tremendous achievement by the team at Cairn. That's the story so far. They've also got a world-class Mangala oil discovery as well, but so far the figures themselves more or less in line with forecasts. They've got 3 north fields to pump 120 to 150,000 barrels of oil per day. I can tell you, and the startup of the Mangala field is seen by the end of 2007, so you can see, therefore, very much on track. Watch out for those shares at the open.
Thanks, John. Well, telling you what we've got still on the show, our equity guest will be Lucy McDonald. She's Chief Investment Officer for Global Equities at RCM. She'll be here with her take on how she sees not just the markets faring today, but also looking ahead to how things may really pan out in the days and weeks ahead as well. Also on the way, we're talking to the Chief Financial Officer of AXA Nobel, Rob Throne, will be joining us with a look at the company's, what it's been actually doing. We do have him coming up in about 3 or 4 minutes from now. AXA Nobel there with its figures a short while ago. Just to tell you that we got equities in Asia on the way up by the end of the trading day. Nikkei 225 closing about 15 minutes ago.
Bloomberg traffic and weather. No delays now with the Holland to the Lincoln, the inbound George Washington Bridge. The upper level slow with road work. Use the lower level. Edison, New Jersey, southbound 287. There's a collision near Route 440, southbound Garden State Parkway. Construction exit 129 through the Raritan tolls. Westchester County, northbound 684, heavy with construction at exit 2. This report is brought to you by Chevron Techron Concentrate. Don't forget to include Techron Concentrate as part of your car's regular maintenance routine. It cleans up deposits to bring out the best in your car.
Overnight lows only dropping to the low to mid-50s. Skies remaining clear. This leads to more sunshine for Tuesday. Still warm, high 75 to 80. In the lower 80s Wednesday, partly sunny with the risk of a few passing showers Wednesday night. Much cooler for Thursday, highs of 60. Then Friday, sunshine, 55 to 60. I'm meteorologist Cameron Thomas, Bloomberg 1130.
Learn how the markets move from the people who move them.
the world's foremost business and financial leaders read Bloomberg Markets, and so can you. In this month's issue, AIG takes the heat. CEO Hank Greenberg steps down amid a regulatory furor. Plus, riding the hedge fund boom and kicking Afghanistan's heroin habit. It's all in the May issue of Bloomberg Markets, now available at Barnes & Noble, Borders, and selected newsstands. Get your first issue free when you subscribe online at Bloomberg.com.
The markets never sleep. Stay with Bloomberg 1130 around the clock. Our coverage continues as we look at the European markets with Bloomberg Television.
Saying first quarter sales were better than expected, up 14% there. The world's biggest maker of cancer treatment also raising its forecast for 2005, saying that drug sales will grow more than 10%. Akzo Nobel's first quarter net income more than doubled. Profits, but saying that higher raw materials prices are hurting its coatings business. Arm Holdings, a designer of chips used in iPods, among other products, says first quarter net income was £12.5 million. Operating margins rising to nearly 32.5%, rising to 32.5% during the period. Now, in economic news, German producer prices rising a faster than expected 0.6% in March, leading to annualized price rises at the fastest rate in 4 years, boosted by higher energy prices. Well, let's get more details on one story which has already been breaking earlier today. It's Akzo Nobel, more than doubling its profits. Here's Francine Leclerc. Francine.
Thank you very much, Rishan. Net income increased to 287 million euros, beating analyst estimates. So that's as the company booked a one-time payment for ending a marketing agreement with Johnson & Johnson. Now, 287 million euros, that compares to 133 million euros in the earlier quarter. However, on the quarter, sales fell by 4% to a little over 3 billion euros. Now, Akzo also booked 149 million euros as non-recurring income at its pharmaceutical unit, stopped marketing this Risperdal with Johnson & Johnson. Akzo Nobel is really into three main units. It is the largest paint maker in the world, but broadly, on the one hand, it has a coating unit which makes paint. There's another chemical unit, also the third one, the pharmaceutical one, produces contraceptives and fertility treatments. And Akzo is saying that the first quarter coating results have been hurt by raw material prices. So there is for that. And however, it is saying that the outlook for profit is unchanged.
Stick around because we got Bob Frone. He's Akzo Nobel's Chief Financial Officer. He joins us on the phone now from Amsterdam with more on those better than expected earnings. Mr. Frone, thanks for joining us. Now, you have three major divisions: coatings, you've got as well chemicals and pharmaceuticals right now. Which are going to be the biggest contributors to your growth this year?
Well, obviously, I think we started the year off quite well. Particularly our chemicals unit did extremely well compared to the first quarter of 2004. I would say that also our human healthcare, Organon, protected the margins. As you know, we currently have 5 products in phase 3. We are developing our pipeline. In the meantime, we're seeing some erosion on our blockbuster Remeron in Europe. So we're managing a situation here. But we expect later in the year that we make the turn back to growth.
Pharmaceuticals are the biggest contributor to 2005 growth there, is that what you're saying?
Well, we expect somewhere in 2005, later in the year, we should see the turn. Now, obviously, our new products will come later in 2006, perhaps 2007. But we think we're making the turn in the end of the decline, let's put it that way.
I want to get my colleague Francine Leclerc involved here, Mr. Frone. Francine.
Yes, hello, good morning. Sorry, are you confirming that sales in the pharmaceutical division will actually start to increase in the second part of this year?
Well, you know the situation. We lost the protection on our product Remeron, our antidepressant, in 2002. Now, in the meantime, the product is also generic in Europe, so we are dealing with the declining sales there. On the other hand, we have some products that show nice growth, like our Nuva ring, the contraceptive ring. Also, our fertility products are starting to doing better. Later in the year, we expect also an introduction of that product in Japan. So we have a few products that should contribute to growth. Whether it exactly will be in the second half, it will be difficult to forecast. But we have expectations that somewhere this year we're going to make the turn.
Sometime this year, so more likely, to be in the fourth quarter than in the third quarter?
It all depends on how quickly Remeron goes down in the rest of Europe. So it's very difficult to predict.
All right, on the chemicals unit now, the company has said that it wants to focus its chemicals division on pulp paper, chemical and base chemicals. How's the divestment going of other units?
Yeah, the divestment is going well. There is a strong appetite for the units that we are selling. Right now we're preparing the information memorandum, and we expect to start the sell-off process probably in the second quarter.
When do you hope to have the bulk of these sales completed?
Yeah, our experience is also with the last divestment that it takes about 12 months. So late this year, maybe first quarter next year, we expect to complete the program.
You've also said that the first quarter coatings results were hurt by raw material prices. Is this going to be a problem going forward as well?
Well, we've seen a very steep increase in raw material prices since July, August of last year. We have increased our prices in the first quarter, some 4%. I've never seen an increase that high in my career with this company. So the market conditions are tough. I think second quarter, third quarter are typically our strong quarters in coatings. It's a seasonal business. So if raw material prices keep rising, we'll see a bit more of that. If not, then I have good expectations that we will make up the shortfall in margin.
Just wanted to ask you about the impact really overall of the coatings business and these higher raw materials costs that you just touched upon.
Well, as you know, the raw materials in coatings, some part of that is driven by oil and oil derivatives. If oil prices, come down a little bit, we expect to get some relief from pressures in that area. So things will hopefully be back to normal. But in the meantime, we're dealing with very rapidly rising raw material prices, and that creates, of course, also a lot of competitive forces in the market.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Vroon. Rob Vroon, the Chief Financial Officer at AXA Nobel. Let's get more expert analysis on AXA's numbers. Lucy McDonald is Chief Investment Officer of Global Equities at RCM. Are you really one which is liking this company here?
Well, we quite like the the concept of the drugs and chemical companies together, and that's an area that we have been investing in, particularly those where we're actually seeing some restructuring of those two divisions. It's not one that we own ourselves.
What about Roche? We had Roche a bit earlier on as well, with a very, very upbeat outlook for 2005.
Yes, and Roche is really showing very strong top-line growth, and that's what people want in this sector. And I think we are seeing now a big dispersion between this sector and us. Pfizer is going to be reporting tomorrow barely any growth at all after the Bextra withdrawal. And we can see 10 to 12% in this, so there is a big dispersion.
I think it's been in Francine to ask you a couple of questions about these pharmaceutical companies. Francine?
Good morning, Lucy. Now, Morgan Stanley raised this morning its European drug stocks outlook to attractive from everyone saying that the Medicare, the cost-cutting, and the pipeline visibility is actually getting better. What's your take on that?
Yes, I think it's a quite fashionable view over the last month, and we've seen quite a nice beginnings of a rebound in this sector, which really started about a month ago. And it was partly as a response to the more cyclical areas of the market beginning to underperform and the earnings momentum coming out of those. So it's partly that. But I also think this is an area which did become quite oversold, and so valuations, particularly for some of the US stocks, were beginning to look really quite attractive and oversold. So I think the whole sector has started a rebound and probably could have a little bit more to do as far as re-rating. And the results from Roche are a very good reminder to people that you can find real growth in this sector.
That real growth, do you have any particular stocks that you prefer compared to other ones?
Well, we're tending to look for some of the companies with good pipelines, good future growth, but particularly in those areas which can benefit from demographics. So some of the Alzheimer's drugs, cancer as well, and those kind of areas. And we also like the growing therapeutic areas like MS.
A lot of these drug makers are having real problems getting their drugs through the regulatory process. Do you think it's just individual drug makers which are being affected, or do you think it's just a blanket coverall thing that regulators is getting much more tough?
I think that the regulators will be tough. In some cases, that's because drugs have got through the regulatory process, but then have been subsequently withdrawn, and that's obviously not good. So it's a very difficult balance to get right. But I think, considering the recent issues that we've had, then the FDA will be quite tough in the future.
Okay, we've seen what's been happening with the recent correction that's taken place as far as equities go. What sort of news would really be positive and market turnaround, if you like?
Interest rates, and I think that's why it's the focus is really always on liquidity in markets. Valuation for equities is quite fair, I think. So that's not the issue. There is an issue on growth, and therefore one has to be a lot more selective about where one is in the market. But the big issue is liquidity. So when will interest rates peak? Which is why I think it's very interesting hearing Mr. McCulley from PIMCO, our sister company, saying that he thinks we're not very far away from it. So he's got expectations of rates peaking around 350.
We'll talk about techs in the next part, but I just wanted to get your view of what's been going on with the earnings season. We saw what Texas Instruments said last night, but on the other hand, we saw what, the likes of IBM said last week as well. What are you taking away from that?
I think what we have all really learned over the last few years is that tech is quite a cyclical sector. And it's also a sector which has quite a large exposure to the consumer as well through PCs and cellular. So therefore, it is not organic growth throughout the whole sector. We can see pockets of growth to cellular, particular, and so you can see that at Texas Instruments. But you can also see that at ARM as well. But there are also the chip industry itself is quite mature overall. So I think that's what we've learned.
Lucy, if you stick around with us, that would be great. Over the break, Lucy McDonald's there from RCM. She's Chief Investment Officer there. Let's just tell you what we've got coming up. It's just heading towards 1/2 past the hour at the moment. Just about, 30 minutes to go before we get European stock markets opening. In fact, 33 minutes away. Lucy will be with us. She'll be back to give us more perspective on where the European equity markets are indeed headed. We're also going to be off to Frankfurt. We're going to preview today's DAX session. We're going to do that in the company of Bloomberg's Christoph Schupp. He'll be joining us just to say the Nikkei 225 closed on 11,065, a gain of nearly 1.2% on the day. Hang Seng still trading there, and the ASX in Sydney closing on 4,021.
Through the night as we bring you continuous coverage from Bloomberg Television in London, along with news updates, traffic, and weather.
Bloomberg traffic and weather in Westchester County, northbound 684 heavy from the Huts through exit 2 with overnight repairs. No problems at the Tappan Zee Bridge, inbound George Washington Bridge. The upper level slow with overnight maintenance. Go for the lower level. No delays at the Lincoln and or the Holland. In Edison, New Jersey, southbound Route 287 reopened at Route 440. An accident cleared. This report is brought to you by Exos, home of excellence strength parking and free access to over 6,600 bank loan and cash ATMs nationwide. Here comes your forecast.
Overnight skies pretty nice and clear, and temperatures mild in the low to mid-50s overnight. Tuesday, more sunshine and still warm, 75 to 80. Continued sunshine to start Wednesday. Afternoon clouds, though, lower 80s. Risk of a few showers Wednesday night, then cooler for Thursday with more sunshine and highs of 60. I'm meteorologist Cameron Thomas, Bloomberg 1130.
I'm Tim Valiant. That's Bloomberg Traffic and Weather on the pods.
24 hours a day, Bloomberg covers the markets. From New York, from Tokyo, and from Bloomberg Television in London.
Today, managers are facing the most dynamic and challenging business environment in history. This is Donald Crooks, director of the Wagner College Executive MBA program. We'll enable you to meet these challenges head-on by preparing you to manage an organization's most critical resource, its people. In 18 months, you can gain the team-building, motivating, and decision-making skills needed to advance and affect change in your organization. Wagner's intimate cohort format allows you to build lasting relationships with your fellow executives, and the experienced Wagner faculty and I will assume a personal, hands-on role in your development. To learn more about the Wagner College Executive MBA program, attend a free information session Tuesday, April 26th at 7 p.m. at our campus, recently voted the most beautiful in the country by the Princeton Review. To reserve your space, call 718-390-3106 or visit wagner.edu. Wagner College, where Executive MBA means business.
From the open for European equities, we've already seen Asian markets end their losing streak. Stocks closing higher in the US too, plus CAC futures and spread bettors also indicating a positive start to the trading day. We'll have more updates as we count you down, plus some of the other stocks that we're going to be watching. They do include drug makers. Roche coming out saying first quarter sales rose are better than expected, 14%. This is the world's biggest maker of cancer treatments. It also raised its forecast for 2005. Earnings of drug and chemicals company AkzoNobel also ahead of estimates. The firm, though, saying that margins in some businesses are being squeezed by these higher raw materials costs. And watch technology shares. The computer chip designer ARM Holdings saying that it's on track to deliver sales growth of 20% this year. Well, as we've been saying about 29 minutes to go before the trading day commences, so the question is, what is in prospect? For a guide, let's have a look at the futures markets. CAC futures in Paris suggesting that we will see a higher open. Indeed, S&P and Dow Jones contracts also suggesting that at 2:30 this afternoon we're likely to see the same thing. At the moment, CAC futures are trading on 39.31. Well, let's see what spread bettors expect of the open. Nick Surf joining us from City Index. So a positive day in prospect, really, Nick. By how much?
Well, the FTSE's only up 3 at the moment, 48.30. The DAX is the best one. It's up 14 at 42.16 currently. Eurostock's up 6, 29.55. After sort of the bounce we got in the semiconductor index last night, we're looking for obviously techs to lead some sort of a bounce this morning.
Nick, just want to ask you just a slightly offbeat question here, really, about the election. Are you making a market there, and if so, what's happening as far as these various British parties go?
We are. We've got the Labour majority's creeping up, obviously.